Hello and welcome to the STCfit Learning Podcast. I'll be your host today. My name's Ben Scott. I'll be joined by Jason Galea. Thanks for joining us on our way to create 1 million positive outcomes for personal training clients by 2030. The podcast is brought to you by @STCfit Learning, a page created to upskill and educate PTs and gym nerds. Also brought to you by @STCfit, and that's a place for all your online and in-person personal training needs. If you enjoyed today's episodes, please give us a share and tag on the Instawebs. You can tag @STCfit, @STCfit Learning, @BenScottSC, and @JasonGaleaPC. Hope you enjoy the show. We are live.
Back again.
2 weeks in a row. Look at us go.
Coming in hot.
We are
Bit of form.
We are the meteors. How you feeling after the road trip yesterday?
Oh, I feel good today. Tell you, oh man, I was mincemeat yesterday. Got home and I was just like, I wanted to eat, and I was just like, nah, I'm going to sleep and I'll order some food.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. Like we said, I would be very curious to know just how much energy you would burn as a driver if that was your job, and then just the conditioning that they need to just do that. It's incredible because we weren't even doing much, and they go 200, 300 kilometers an hour and stuff for an hour and a half, 2 hours. If you're an F1 driver, for example, that's crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing stats for Bathurst, and I can't remember the number of corners. It's in the 20s, and I think they have an average brake pressure of 120 kilos. So obviously it's not a full range leg press, but lifting 120 kilos single leg over probably 4 inches of travel. I think it's something like 20 corners for 160 laps. And then every gear change is 20 kilos of force as well. Yeah. And you do over 100 of them a lap. Yeah.
It's definitely a sport that people don't really understand, obviously, just the physical component of it.
Yeah.
So even just the neck, man, obviously we weren't hooning around too much, but you took a corner at a bit of speed. I was like, well, imagine doing this at
300.
Yeah. Just braking under that much force. They've got, they're doing 280 or whatever, and they just brake. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think they get up to 5G, I think, in the F1s.
Yeah.
And downforce stats are super weird too. I've had a look at, when I went to Le Mans with my client a few years ago. So they actually have to spike the brake pressure and then release it. So you might need, say it's 150 bar of pressure or whatever. So they pretty much, the way my client explained it was you basically jump on the brake pedal as hard as you can initially. Yeah. And then you actually, as the downforce comes off, you actually have to take your foot off the brake.
Yeah.
While you're doing 250 Ks an hour, looking at brick walls and shit, or concrete walls and shit. It's excuse me. The thought of that just frightens the shit out of me.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah. I would love to know just energy expenditure wise, just what would go down for a race.
Yeah.
With a driver. That'd be really fascinating to know. Cause everyone just we spoke about yesterday, everyone goes off the steps, you have to physically move your body, but it's you're changing gears, you're putting your foot down, you're gripping the steering wheel, you're tensing your neck. There's a lot of energy that's being expended to fulfill the demands of what that sport is. Yeah. So it's you've got to expend energy. You the concentration, the beat of your heart, all of that stuff is has to be something.
It's ironic on the way, on the freeway sections towards and home, listening to a new book called Behave that unpacks basically how your brain works. And on the way back, it was talking about how things become autonomic and how if you're exposed to a new stimulus, how fatiguing it is and blah, 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 blah. And I'm I'm feeling that right now. It's I was very alert to a lot of things just now, and now I'm tired.
Yeah. I can concur. But I feel great today. So
yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So today we're going to talk about client acquisition. So it's the fourth of our 5 pillars, and just open up a little bit more than what we did in the 5 pillar specific episode. When we start talking about acquiring clients
the first thing we need to do is refer back to the start of all of the other pillars that we've talked about. Is just knowing who your client is.
Yep.
If you're trying to acquire a client, you need to know who they are, because all of this, the theme of all of this is just going to be identifying someone's problems, showing that you can solve them to a degree that the person believes that you can and is willing to pay for it.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen already, we actually dropped our three steps to niching or finding your niche, which is on stcfitlearning.com/niche. It's free access, written and video forms. If you want to go have a look at that, just on how to identify really clearly exactly who it is that you work with, whether you're a new PT or someone who's a little bit more experienced in the game as well. So once you've got that really clear idea of who you're going to work with, we can start to obviously target those people and attract them to working with us. So most people, particularly at the moment with the rise of social media, want to start talking about profile. And the first place that people go with that is like Instagram and that. And we're going to talk about that. But Jace, you probably had, to be honest, the most success of any trainer I've seen in a gym, just in terms of your reputation, the relationships you built on the floor, and people actually just walking up to you on gym floor being like, I want to train with you. How do you think you built that?
So I think the biggest influence for that was like the first fitness director that was at the gym. So they kind of said to me straight from the get-go, like, everyone says hello, you say hello to everybody, you always, kind of dress appropriately, you leave your problems at the door, and you basically just operate actively in the space that you want to be busy in as well. So from that point onwards, I was like, well, it helped being a receptionist as well. Like when I was at the gym, because like I had to say hello to everybody anyway. But I think like from that point onwards, it was like, every time I step into here, it's like Jason, the fitness professional who's training his clients. Every time I'm training a client, it's an opportunity for someone else to have a little bit of a sneak peek of what it looks like. So, if I'm lying on the floor with, my hand on my head watching TV, or counting, looking at the TV, or like, flicking through eBay while someone's doing a fucking circuit or something. These are all real examples too, guys. Then that's not a really good first exposure to somebody for me. So, it was just all the time, like always trying to remind myself why I'm there. And yeah, I guess like once I started to see the success of that, it just become autonomous too. Like, I don't know, just like walk past, g'day mate, how are you? Like, what are you training today? Helping people out with things, try this instead. And then, yeah, just not showing up and doing the best I can for my clients. And I think that all of that stuff together just gave me a good enough reputation at the gym, and then people started to talk, and I got the results as well, which is super important. So then it just got to a point where I didn't really have to do too much because I'd put all that work in at the start. And then, yeah, everything kind of just looked after itself at some point, kind of organically, isn't that the goal?
Would you have considered yourself like an extrovert, or did you have to like really force yourself into that role?
I think I felt really comfortable in the gym. Like you take me into a social setting outside the gym, I'm probably one of the quietest people there until I've had a couple of drinks. And if there's too many people, if it's a big social environment, I'll definitely be like one of the quietest people there. If it's a smaller environment, I'll come out of my shell a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like naturally I just feel more comfortable just with a small group of people. So yeah, there was definitely like, some concerns about like speaking to a stranger, and I'd obviously never really kind of had to talk to someone that I'd never known before. Like I never really put myself in that situation. I was so young. I was like 20 years old or 21 years old. So but I don't know, I kind of just got comfortable in that space, and I just knew that this was going to be my second home. There's times where I'd spend more time there than I was at my actual home, and I just kind of had to flip that switch and go, well, if I'm going to spend so much time here, I better present myself like someone who works here, who's approachable, who people want to work with. Because if I don't, like, how the hell is my business going to survive? Like, people have this expectation, like as soon as you put the uniform on, that's just a magnet for leads. And like, it doesn't really work that way, unfortunately. Like,
it's almost the opposite.
Well, it'll be a magnet for maybe some questions. But
A lot of people see that shirt and shit themselves and they don't want to talk to you anymore.
100%. Like the amount of people that said like, I came to you because you're one of the only ones that says hello to me. Like the amount of times that I actually had that over the 10 years has been phenomenal. And I'm like, just shows like the psychology of the client. Like, yeah, they think we're a bit larger than life. You know, we spoke about this last night in the academy call. Like approaching a personal trainer is a big step for some people. They're not like us. They don't value fitness and, you know, their health and stuff as like top three. And even if they did, they're not as confident as us to talk about it and to just go out and go, I'm going to go and talk to this coach because I want them, because they don't know anything. So stepping out to this person who like is just so far ahead in terms of their goals and fitness and the way they present themselves, like that's a big step. So we have to break that down and be more approachable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I obviously was there. I think you'd just moved into PT when I started as an MC.
Yeah.
And it was super noticeable that like, whether you were or not, the perception was like, Jason's super confident, walks around the gym, talks to everyone. And like, obviously you got busy pretty quick. Helps when you train an MC and they give you freebies, but
yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, it's something that, to be honest, like I struggled with a really long time. Coming from that MC background, and we'll talk about the calls later, but happy to sit on the phone and get rejected for 2 hours. But walking around the gym floor was just something different.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I think because I didn't want to pick the phone up. I was like, oh, I've got to be good at something else.
Yeah.
Like you, if you look at the major lead acquisition funnels for a gym, it's walking the floor and picking up the phone. Yeah. So if you don't like either of those, like hand your resignation in now.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Find like one of them.
Yeah, you've got to like one of them. And like I did grit my teeth a few times and pick the phone up. Like I was like, fuck it. If I'm going to make this work, like everything comes at a cost. Say that all the time. It's like, this is an amazing job, but there's got to be some shit that you got to do that you don't like.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. Well, I picked the phone up. Here I am now, you know, when I moved over some major personal obstacles, and it's all worth it in the end, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think the take home for that is if you're a face-to-face coach, and you hear this a lot, like I don't know who the quote originally came from. It was Phil Loney or Poliquin or someone like that. To get famous in your hometown first.
Yeah, I think that was Phil Loney. I think
Yeah, I think get famous in your gym first is a really good one as well. Like,
yeah,
use your Instagram to complement what you're doing in the gym. Not I'm going to blow up on Instagram and have 10,000 followers tomorrow. Yeah, get really good inside that gym. Get renowned for the outcomes, what you do, all that sort of stuff. I think Mark Coles talks about it as well. Just about being really successful in the place that you work, and then leveraging that online and starting to look that way.
Yeah, I agree.
So, in terms of building a profile in the gym, like Jay said, it's talking to everyone, it's getting the results, it's giving such a good service that people talk to other people. Gyms very quickly become cliques. There's lots of like little groups of friends and stuff that are inside that facility. So you just need to be able to plug into hopefully more than one of them. Then obviously we can start to use online more and more now as well. Jason and I talk about it all the time. Like the younger people that we work with and see tend to be less willing to be conversational on the gym floor. Even approaching them sometimes on the gym floor, they're like, why the fuck is this human talking to me in real life? So sometimes they'll prefer to just shoot you a message online and ask for coaching that way. I know the girls get it a lot in Point Cook. You probably do now as well. So we do want to facilitate that as well. But it's really important, and we talked about this quite a few times now, but like the biggest problem that we see with trying to build this profile is trainers trying to build a profile based on how intelligent they are and based on what they think other trainers will think.
Yeah.
And it's the two fastest way to have, I'm not going to say useless, but very ineffective profiling online is by taking that road.
Yeah, and a very frustrating experience as well for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So like Instagram wise, we've obviously developed ours over a period of time. Maybe just a bit of insight of like what we're doing at the moment, posts, stories, frequency, and like just the way we're structuring our content now.
I think even before that, like it's really important to understand, like, if you want to get busy in a place, you need to be active in it. So we get all these people who come to us who are struggling with lead acquisition. You know, it's a really big problem. One of the three major problems, you know, that we experience with all of our coaches. And when you ask them about like, where do you work and where do you want to be busy? And they tell you, it's like, okay, so what are you doing within those spaces? And it's like nothing. And it's like, okay, so put yourself in the mind and the shoes of someone purchasing a product or a service or coaching in general. If they don't know who that person is, are they going to purchase from them? No, they can't find you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. And so there's this, like, again, assumption, status, fitness professional, all the leads, happy days, you know, everyone's kind of kicking goals. It doesn't work that way. So because of that premise, in an online space, awareness is key. So we show up at least 4 times a week on our stories. We post at least 4 times a week on our walls, or whatever you call them. And we also have some calls to action for people to jump on board, because people like to be guided to decision making. So in terms of the content creation, if you know your client, if you know their problems, if you understand them, you might have even been there yourself, which is a really good way of understanding them. But even then, it's like, what are all the frustrations of all the clients you work with? Like, what are they? And it's like, if you understand those, deliver that out. Create a post, short form, written, pictures, video. Work with as many different platforms so people can kind of see and align themselves with you. Because some people like to read, some people like to watch, some people like to look. And then all of a sudden it's like, cool, status. They can align themselves with you as an authority, problem solver, someone who can get the outcome. Hey guys, just letting you know I'm taking on clients at the moment. This is how you inquire. Oh, cool. I'm going to inquire, because everything that I've seen from this point, from A to B, for example, is really ticking the box for me. And I want that.
Yeah, 100%. And that, again, it just comes back to, when you're posting this stuff, it needs to be based on that individual that you're trying to talk to. You're not talking to me and Jace, because like, that's not who you're trying to sell to. We might say that, yeah, cool, it's a cool post, really interesting, and give you a double tap, but it's not gonna make us buy.
Yeah, definitely. Like, coaches spend way too much time delivering content to other coaches. So if you don't train other coaches and other coaches aren't your demographic, you're wasting your time. Like, see so many times, like, people just talking in like language that other coaches think would be impressive. And it's like, and then you look at the person that they want to train. It's like, they have no understanding of anatomy, no understanding of medical language, no understanding of nutrition at a level that they're talking about. So they're like, okay, well, that's what going way over their head. Guess what? They're going to go talk to the person that talks to them well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, irrespective, you might be the best person to deliver that outcome for them, but they don't know that, because you're talking way beyond their years. And I know people out there are going to be like, well, you know, fucking get on my level, bro. And it's like, well, maybe if you're an educator and you're trying to bring people up in that fashion, and you have the ability to do that because you're famous, sure, like, you do you, man. But it's like, you're struggling to get clients. I don't know if you like get up on my level. It's like, okay, well, good luck with that. I don't know if you're going to be able to kind of, you know, fill your books up with that attitude. So again, it's like, kind of comes back to just having a really hard think about who that person is that you work with, or that has an affinity to you, an affinity to your service. And then going, cool, well, how can I speak to this person? Like, it might not be that fulfilling for you. And like, you're like, oh, but I want to have really in-depth conversations with people. They're like, cool, go find yourself a network where you can do that. We
message them
nerd out all the time on shit. Like, you, me, Aaron, a couple of the other guys, like, we just talk about cool shit. But it's like, I'm never going to deliver that stuff online, because it's like, the person that I work with doesn't care. Yeah. So there's no point in me doing that.
I think the best example of this is the word toned.
Yeah.
See it all the time. Like, there's no such thing as toned. It's like, if you actually look up, and it just takes literally toned definition into Google, it's something along the lines of the look of low body fat or looking lean or something like that. Jason's on it. We'll read out the actual definition. So it was a predominant S&C coach who actually posted it again recently. Like, can we stop using this word? Because it means like muscle tone from his anatomy textbook. It's like, nah, bro. Like, when somebody says toned, it means what?
Give greater strength or firmness to the body or a muscle. That's one of that. That's using it as a verb, not a noun, because tone is obviously a sound as well.
Yeah, of course. So you can't argue with that. Like, if someone wants to look visually more firm, you can't say that doesn't exist. So I think, without ranting about that, because it's a little bit of a trigger for me.
It's semantics, but what they're referring to, though, depending on how they deliver it, is muscle tone. And that has its own definition.
Yes.
So someone's saying tone, and then someone's saying muscle tone, and you're going to nerd out on it and be very semantic. It's like, yeah, sure, you're talking about, like the partial contraction position of a muscle, like, from a myofilament perspective. So they get closer together. So they're partially toned because they're partially contracted. It's like, all right, man, like, if you're an educator and you're talking about it, sure, maybe. But it's like, if you're a client,
if you're a coach and a client comes to you with the goal of being toned, explain to them just what that means. It's like, great, we need to reduce some body fat and build some muscle mass.
Yeah, that particular person wants greater strength or firmness to the body or a muscle group.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best example of it. And it's the best way to be reflective in yourself and go, all right, how often am I making this about me, and how often am I making about the person I'm trying to target?
Yeah.
That's what will separate you from getting tons of leads and building a good profile and not.
Yeah. And not caring about what other coaches think of you. Because if they actually understand what you're doing, then they'll understand you're talking to a specific person. Yeah. Like, sure, if you're talking to an audience and people know that, and you're saying things in there improper, then it's like, it's a different story. But so if you're talking to a demographic that's the language they use, then like, makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like talking Italian to Italians. Like, okay, so you're not going to talk French to Italians. Like, they're not going to understand you. Maybe little bits and pieces.
Yeah, we had a light bulb moment in the academy call last night with one of the trainers. Just sort of pointed out, like, the reason you don't want to post your call to action so much is because you've heard another trainer somewhere sometime be like, well, fucking all they do is sell. And you could just see like light bulbs straight away. Yeah. And then it was a follow-up of like, but I bet you they only had 10 clients, not a full book. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, fuck. It's like, maybe that's not the opinion that you should be listening to.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of coaches even reference success off the 1% of the industry that just get that like overnight success. And like the ones that say, well, I've never had to sell a day in my life. It's like, okay, cool. So you're part of the 1%. You're no different to like a high responder to training. It's like, I've never followed a program and I'm massive. It's like, cool. Your genetics say you're always going to be great. So unfortunately, for the other 99% of the industry and the other 99% of the population in terms of a training perspective, it's like there has to be some formal structured process to exposure, acknowledgement, acquisition, onboarding.
Yeah.
You're not going to get by listening to these people that are very, very like rare. Yeah. And that's how you should run your business too. Because at the end of the day,
even the goal of like the following and stuff too is interesting. Like, I know trainers that have the 10K swipe ups. It's like my online personal training business is more successful, even though I only have 4.5.
Yeah.
Like that following doesn't automatically result in income either, unless you're selling products and shit because you've got a following and people like the post. But if you actually want to coach people, it's about building that relationship and solving the problem. It's nothing to do with how many followers you actually have. Your percentage of buyers is what's important.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, agreed.
All right. So before we get stuck on here too long, so if you want to build that profile online, we believe in our experience, unless you're training maybe like over 40s, Instagram's where it's at the moment. Can't say how long it'll stay there for. At the moment, it's dominating. So that's probably the place that we would recommend. We only use Facebook now as an automatic share from Instagram. We don't actually put any time into directly working with Facebook
at the moment. Yeah.
Other platforms, YouTube seems to have made a huge resurgence in the last 6 to 12 months. It's taken off again. So if you want to do your video format, YouTube would be the best place to start for that. Blogs, you can start your own, or you can use Medium. Medium's fairly effective. The challenge that we had with Medium is like, how many of your clients actually hang out there?
Yeah.
Not many. So you're probably not going to pick up, whereas YouTube's very searchable. Like a lot of people will be on there and you might happen to come up if you have a good video that cracks. Whereas like posting health and fitness stuff on Medium, is your Gen Pop client hanging out on there trying to nerd out on this stuff? Probably not. But it does position you with authority, and it does allow you to have like link in bio, go read this new thing that I wrote, create a relationship, invest some time, show you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. Even just assets to send people to. Like
100%.
Conversation. Oh, I actually wrote about this. Go have a look at this.
Yeah.
That's so much. That's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Website, again, not hugely important. We haven't had a very effective website for most of our career. We've had one, just not a very effective one in terms of selling. So yeah, we can say that it doesn't have a huge impact in your ability to be successful. And depending on where you're at in the business, in your business, would be whether I would kind of spend time on this or not. We used up until recently lead pages very effectively for the online sales kind of side of things. As the link in the bio, more information about coaching, that sort of stuff. So check those out. It's actually pretty affordable as well.
I think a website's still like just another avenue for people just to kind of like see you and absorb your stuff. You know, it's not going to be like, because you have a website, people are just going to buy off you, like, which like a lot of people think like, oh, if I just put it out there and give people the opportunity to just go there and purchase, which is what everybody wants. You don't want to have to do the process. You want it to be done, but it doesn't kind of work that way.
Yeah. We spent 50 grand on ours and it didn't sell anything. So
yeah. People kind of just still inquired personally.
Yeah.
They go to the website, have a look, like, oh, I've just been on your website, and then they contact you and go, cool. And that's just been the process up until now, obviously.
So this works for both in the gym, and it's probably, to be honest, where we really solidified our reputation, at least in our space, with seminars and workshops. We started them out of Good Life Point Cook. We ran like small group training sessions and stuff off the back of them, and saw lots of really, really good success and built a very solid reputation in this area. So I guess advice for younger trainers, Jace, who maybe don't think they have the skill set yet to run a seminar or a workshop?
Know who you're delivering it to and get the language right. Again, like people are approaching something like a seminar or a workshop with the idea of presenting it to someone like myself or you. When if you look at the people that are going to turn up, it's most likely, you know, the client that they train. If it's not someone like you or me, they don't need to speak that way. Generally, it's just lower hanging fruit stuff, very easily language, stuff that they understand, the person doing the seminar. Like, don't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to the thing we spoke about at the start. Know the person who's coming. Like, why are you putting the seminar on? Like, what's the purpose? Who's coming? Like the girls do all the time. They hold seminars and workshops. I'll look at it first and go, okay, so this is great for me. Is this great for the person that you guys are delivering to? And it's like, oh no, crap. Damn, I've got to go back and do this. Like, this would be great for a PT. Yeah. It's like, are you presenting to PTs? Oh no, we're not. I'm like, okay, so let's just change the language. Let's just change the level of detail. And then they go back, and then it's like, the feedback was awesome. It's like, yeah, cool. I understood everything. It's really, really good. And that's kind of what you want.
Yeah, we still get it now with like different people who come on Coach's Corner, depending on who the audience is and who's listening. Like a lot of people just like, whoa, that one was heavy, or like, oh, that one was really good. I could understand everything, even people that weren't in the space.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think if you have a moderately full book, 20 to 30 clients and you've been doing that for 6 months, you can run a workshop for them.
Yeah, just run one for your clients first to practice.
Yeah. And then just open it up to the gym. Like you're going to get all your clients to come. Maybe their tickets half price or free or whatever. And then you invite other people to come along as well. You might get 1 or 2 the first time. I remember doing a seminar in a gym that there was actually no gym floor space. The room that I was going to use ended up being used that night that wasn't timetabled. So I ended up, there was a footy oval next door with a grandstand with people sitting on wooden seats in a grandstand with me at the bottom of the railing with 4 people presenting a like silly season, how to survive the silly season seminar. And a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, fuck, that would suck. It'd be really embarrassing. You can only present to 4 people. It's really awkward when you expect sort of 10, 15, even 20. I closed 3 out of the 4 and they all stayed for 18 months.
Yeah.
So if you add that up as like a dollar figure return for the hour that it took to present and maybe the 2 hours it took to create, I'll still take that.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on to, you've got your profile in place, be it in the gym, you're starting to get that online thing going. Depending on where you are in your career, if you're newer, your whole focus right now, you probably come on this podcast like, all right, tell me how to get busy. This is the money spot. Getting clients for face-to-face. And I know we just talked about how well Jace did by walking the floor. Hands down, the most effective way to build your business in the shortest time possible is making phone calls to gym members. Whether it's their birthday, they haven't been to the gym for a couple of weeks, they have been to the gym for a couple of weeks, they come in the times that you want them to come in, they're fucking signed up a month ago, you want to do a check-in and see how they're going, they signed up a year ago and you want to wish them a happy anniversary, like whatever excuse, it doesn't matter, that's only going to be your opening line, and then everything else is exactly the same.
Yeah. It's just think of it like if you cloned yourself and one person got in front of as many people as possible and the other one didn't, who's going to be more successful? Like it's a straight game of percentages and mathematics. It's like the person that's going to be doing the calls, taking the rejections, getting that, 1 or 2 people out of 5 calls, maybe more, that's going to sit down with them. So people can cancel. So that person's going to still walk the floor, talk, book appointments for that, comp sessions, the works. It's like, it's not an accident that person gets busier. Even like just hanging out at the gym. It's like, you're not busy, hang out at the space that you want to be busy in. Someone inquires at the desk, hey, I look for a PT. Oh, awesome. I can help you with that because you're there.
Yeah, just to be really clear on that, the PT room doesn't count.
No.
And the stretching room on your phone doesn't count.
No.
You have to be present.
Yeah, walking the floor, putting stuff away and just cleaning stuff is the best way to just engage in conversation because you're doing something and then you're chatting to someone on the side. So one, for those people that find it terrifying to speak to a stranger, distract yourself by doing something else and doing that as the side intention.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, and then just keep putting something away. And 2, like you just look like a fucking good person, like cleaning up and putting and making your environment look and operate in a clean fashion.
Yeah. So when it comes to calls, the success is going to come from the language that you use.
Yeah.
So the most important take home, I think, that'll come from all of today is going to be from the second you pick up that phone, you assume that this person wants to be a client. If you can get that right, your ratio of booking appointments online will go up. Your ratio of like closing sales will go up. Even just people showing up after the call will go up. Just the posture and the confidence and the language that you produce by looking at things through that lens will change 100% how things play out.
Yep.
So yeah, grab yourself. If you're not busy now and you've been told about calls and you haven't done it, or you did it a little bit but not consistently, we've had multiple, I think half a dozen maybe, trainers go from 0 to over 40 sessions in 12 weeks, literally just doing calls, consult, training sessions, sell. Repeatedly for 12 weeks, that's all they did. They filled their books. It wasn't Instagram, it wasn't their website, it wasn't the fact that like they had STCfit on their branding. They just followed the system over and over and over again. So little things, I guess the one takeaway that I'll give you, so you're going to get on a call, obviously, how's your training going? What's your goals at the moment? What have you been doing? How are you finding your outcomes? What are you finding the most challenging at the moment? Starting to identify those problems. Cool. What I'd like to do is actually get you in for a couple of sessions. First one will just be a consult. We'll have a look at what's going on with training, nutrition, what the main things that are holding you back are. Second one, we'll get out in the gym, and then we'll have a chat about ongoing PT as well. I've got a spot available on Tuesday or Thursday. Which one suits you? Because most trainers do the first part really, really well. They build that relationship. They get a good conversation going. They might even get some banter happening, which is awesome. They get to that last part and they're like, would you like to come in for a consult? And have a think about every time someone's asked you, would you like to do something that's probably a little bit inconvenient, requires time and planning? Regardless of whether you want it or not, the answer is probably going to be no.
Yeah.
Unless you're really lucky. So give them, everyone is always looking for the path of least resistance. So give them two options to pick from that are both the outcomes that you want and that's going to be able to help them. So it's Monday or it's Tuesday night, or it's Tuesday or it's Thursday night. It's not, would you like to?
Yeah. And I think the last thing too that's super helpful is just kind of like knowing like your targets and kind of breaking them down into like a realistic number as well, like on a daily basis or weekly basis. So we've got a pretty good strategy to do that. Like we've kind of trended the average conversion rate of every face-to-face coach we've had in the first like initial say 3 to 6 months, because it changes after that. They become much better at selling. So the ratio changes. So it's like, you know, knowing how many clients you have, average conversion rate's probably about 40%, maybe even lower for some people who've never had any exposure to like proper sales training and structure. So however many sales you want, or however many clients you want, you're going to need to kind of fill the difference, knowing that you're going to lose 60% of them. And then it's like, however many sessions you want, generally the average client does like 1.5 to maybe 2 sessions. So you're going to need to think about that as well, of like how many people you're going to see. So, you know, we've got a really good procedure that kind of breaks all that down to the point where like, we even know like trended the average attendance of, appointments, the average phone calls that you need to call people. So we can literally get it to a point where it's like, if you want 25 sessions per week, you'll need 14 clients and you'll need to make $100 a week to see, you know, X amount of people. And that's just, 25 a day. Yeah. So it's literally breaking this down to a process that's way more actionable than I've got to get busy. And that's it. It's like, well, how the fuck do I do that? It's like, I know I've got to do something, but I don't know how to do it. So I'm just going to panic and do nothing, and then panic again next week, even more so. It's like, and we've done it. We've been there. So it's like, instead we've developed this system to operate with purpose. So you guys have clarity and vision and go, cool. So if I do this, it works towards this greater thing. That's me being busy and having clients and actually being able to make a career out of personal training.
Yeah. I think a little note, maybe just to take home, is like 5 to 10 dials per day, 5 days a week, will get you busy real quick. Yeah. Based on the stats that we sort of see. Because you're going to get it, I think, and pickup is around 20 to 30%. Booking on the phone's usually 40 to 50. Show ups usually 70-ish. And then closing, like Jay says, can be 40 to 50 for someone who's new.
Yeah.
So if you reverse engineering that, how many clients you need per week, bang those numbers in, and you'll know exactly how many dials you need to make. And then just refine it over time. So if you're good on the phone, maybe you don't need to dial as many. If you're crap on the phone, maybe you need to do it more.
Yeah, I think I worked out that the average 100 calls on average will give you 25 booked appointments.
Yeah.
You'll speak to probably half those people, maybe a little bit less, but you'll get at least 25 people booked in.
Yeah.
And it's like, that means you'll get maybe 10 clients out of that. And you'll most likely get anywhere from 15 to 20 sessions. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's not, we haven't made that math up. Like, it's literally like trended across, 5 years of doing this.
Yeah. I think it's actually 6 now.
Oh, there you go. I'll keep saying 5.
Yeah. It's just stayed 5, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. 5 plus, we'll call it now.
Thousands of clients.
Yeah. Lots.
Yeah, cool. All right. So the other way, if you're listening and like you're establishing the gym and you're looking at the online space. Talking about this in the academy at the moment as well, people like looking to move that way. We find that the model is basically the way we understand it, that it works at the moment. The reason I keep saying at the moment and how we understand it is because these platforms change their algorithms all the time. Like I'm talking daily, weekly, monthly. So it's impossible to say this is what to do, because this is what to do might not work next week. And we've paid for courses and sales processes that were already done. They were already cooked. The algorithm had already kind of phased them out, or they were just like overdone and they were too recognizable and no one bought. So your profile, imagine your profile is like your initial aesthetic attention grabber. So how that layout of your profile looks, let's say you put up a post, catches someone's attention, drives them to your profile, or someone shared it, whatever reason, they end up on your profile. You want them to look at that, read what's in the bio, look at the pictures, and get a clear sense of like, I want to hear more of what this person has to say. So the quality is good, using good pictures. They're not like, I know it's hard sometimes when you're first starting out, but like not shitty videos with poor quality and all that sort of stuff. Like put some time and effort into it. If you're going to post a video, for example, find a good still and post that first, and then have the video as you swipe across to the next tab. Like little things like that just make things look a little bit better. You're welcome to go and stalk the STCfit, STCfit_learning, myself, Jace. I actually fucked up my grid like 2 weeks ago.
So, yeah, we were laughing at that.
Yeah, I played Snake for a couple of weeks. And even the girls like Nat and Amy, you can find them through the STCfit page as well. Just the way the grid's laid out, you know exactly what they do and who they work with. We want that. Then we get the follow. We hit them with a DM. Hey, thanks for following. Is there anything I can help with? How's your training going? Start the conversation. Now, I don't know if you guys have experienced it. I know I have, and I know coaches that do it. There is nothing more uncomfortable to me or more off-putting to me than getting a sales offer first.
Yeah. Or even just like getting a hint that there's one coming.
Even a pitch. Like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
Like we've done it. We've tried it. Like, hey, I'm Ben. I'm a strength and composition coach and I work with blah, 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 blah. And I was like, cool, bro.
Yeah.
Like, move on.
Yeah, don't do that.
So we laugh a lot and we compare the DMs situations to like getting on Tinder and trying to get a date. It's like, you're not just the old like leading with the dick pics, probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Don't do that on Instagram either. That's creepy.
Yeah.
So you need to start trying to build a relationship and provide value. Remember, like and I was thinking about this before we did the podcast. If you still have a problem with sales, there's a very good chance that you're doing it wrong. You're not doing it value-based.
Yep.
So when you provide tons of value that's free, you can show that you solve problems. Sales actually becomes a really positive experience for both people involved. So for the client or the prospect and yourself, because most personal trainers got into this because they want to help people. So if you're able to provide enough value that they're willing to pay for you, then that means that you helped them, which means you did what you're passionate about. So that's kind of why we're here, right? So anyway, back to the DMs. How are you? How's training? Start a conversation. If you get to a point where it's like, look, I could help with that. Would you like to jump on for a Zoom call and we can have a consultation? Then we can go about that way. However, building that relationship in the chat's good, but we see most of the relationship building happening through the stories. So the profile, what attracts them, they'll follow you. Then where the relationship and the sale is made is actually in the stories. So Jace, maybe just like an overview of what makes a really good Instagram story.
Again, repeating ourselves. It comes down to knowing the client and knowing those kind of 100 pain points, picking one of those, getting the person engaged with like a problem that they experience So it's like, are you experiencing X as an example? And then explaining the scenario, acknowledging that they understand that they're in this position because of X, Y, and Z, providing a solution, and then moving them on to something helpful and leading them back into something else that you've made. So it's like, for more information on this, go and have a look at this. It's like, here's another resource I've created for this. I just spoke about this for like a minute. If you want to know a little bit more, I've written this article about, how to navigate macros and how to set them up for you, for example.
Yeah.
So it's just good content directed at the person who's tuning in, who you want to solve their problems for. So at some point, they're going to come and, work with you essentially.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully you guys actually go in and look at that niche document. Through that process, you'll actually create 100 topics that you could use for either posts or stories. It just makes life so much easier. You don't have to sit around and think about what am I gonna post? It's all there. So the next step, you've either done the phone call, you found someone on the gym floor, or you've managed to land one through the DMs, or someone's inquired based off consistency in your stories and those calls to actions. Moving on to the consultation, and I'll get Jace again just to run through the structure of a good consult and what are the main things that you're going to need to make sure you're doing. Like how it's actually laid out, I don't think is that important. I've used quite a few different varieties, but there's a few common themes in terms of like finding the problems and building rapport that seem to be the big bangers of importance.
Yeah, this is where like most of the problems lie, I feel. It's like if you don't have like a good consultation with someone, like if they sign on, they were going to sign on anyway. But if they were just like kind of, on the fence, we've spoken about it before, like the consultation will be the make or break. And for a lot of people, it's kind of the break, just because this process isn't really repeatable, consistent. It doesn't really kind of go into where it needs to go. It just goes more towards the like convincing people to get on board rather than like identifying the problem, showing them how, your service or program would deliver this and solve this problem for them. And always kind of looking at the prize. Like the prize is the outcome. The prize is why they're there. So if you don't find that person's problems of why they don't have that prize right now, it's going to be really hard to get them to see, why they would sign up with you and do your program. Because all the language and everything's delivered to that. We've had really good conversations with guys in the academy and our own coaches. It's like probably directed the conversation somewhere where they didn't care. And that's why they didn't sign up. And then the next consult, it's like, I took your feedback. I guided the conversation with the right language. I went to the places that were more about the client and fixing them and how our service would solve them. And they were like, I want to start ASAP.
Yeah.
So I guess in a nutshell, it's like build a good relationship with the person, find out their biggest problems, show the path to the solution, and then always kind of using those test closes. It's like, can you see how this would get the outcome that you want? Or can you see how this would get X, Y, Z outcome when you're talking about things? Like, could you see yourself doing something like that? It's like, yeah. Yes. Do you want lots of yeses? Does that make sense? Yes. Is this what you're after? Yes. And it's like, at the end, it's like, okay, so this is the program. This is what's involved. This is what you get. It's just this much a week. When do you want to get started? And it's like, again, and then that's the most important thing as well, is like encouraging an answer, a decision. It's like everyone just sits there at the end and just like, so what do you reckon? Like, don't give them a choice.
Yeah.
It's like, when do you want to get started? You've built all this excitement. There's all these test closes. People, they're there for a reason. Don't give them the choice. They need you to tell them. They need you to guide them. Here, let's get started next week. Let's get started now. Anything to add?
I think the test closes is the one that people miss the most. So they go through, they get all the questions right, they can even build the relationships, but they don't actually paint a picture of where they're heading. And remember when we said like about the phone call, like assuming that person's already your client from the start. So when you're talking about like, instead of saying, for example, if you decide to go ahead with coaching, your program will look like this, this, and this. It's like, instead of that, how much more powerful is your program is going to be 4 days a week. We're going to do this, this, and this, and I'll track this stuff. all of a sudden it's like, well, that's my program. That's what I'm doing. You're leading them directly to where they're going. Does that sound like it would work for you? Yes. All right. You just directly agreed that in 2 to 3 weeks time, you're going to be following this program. Throughout doing your, like, we call them wow sessions, but like your actual training session, because a lot of people want to actually see you train before they'll agree to sign on to personal training. It's like, all right, so what we're going to do right now, we're only safe enough to do a goblet squat with this kettlebell. What I think is probably within, I don't know, maybe 8 to 12 weeks, we should be able to get you under a barbell for your squats the way they look right now. Would that be exciting? Would you like to back squat? Yeah, 100%. That sounds awesome. Sweet. So you've just painted out the next 8 to 12 weeks with that person. And to be honest, this is something that is super, super powerful for retention as well. It's just continuing that language all the time. Like Jay said before, like at the start, maybe you need to think about it and people kind of go, oh, maybe it's a little bit, if you're consciously thinking about it all the time, I have to keep finding this forward picture. It feels a little bit clunky. But when you get used to the language, it's actually what's best for the client. You need them invested in a long-term outcome to get one. If you're just talking about only what's happening today all the time, then there's no worth in making the decision that's going to reward them in 8 weeks from now. So if they don't do that squat session, they don't get to get under the barbell in 8 weeks. If they don't do the extra exercise that you've got them to do to improve their ankle mobility or their bracing or whatever, which is the problem with the squat, then they don't get to progress. And that's your job, is to facilitate progress with your clients.
Yeah.
So I think, the test closes is the one that people miss the most. I think a good metric, it's obviously you're not going to be sitting there with a fucking pen every time you get one, but you should get 20. They should agree to personal training 20 times before you ask them for money. You're getting that right, your close ratio that Jace mentioned earlier will go from 40% to 70% overnight.
Yeah, even more.
Yeah,
I think the last thing to add is just like don't go with the idea of showing them everything they get. That most of the time they don't care. Like, sure, it's definitely I guess maybe demographic, even like I guess demographic based. Like sometimes, like some people definitely want to know a little bit more. They'll probably ask more questions though. So if you get them to do more of the talking, then that's kind of where that process will go if it needs to. And you always want to get to a point where you're just asking questions and they're kind of doing most of the talking. And then at the end is where you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do for you. Where if you're doing all of the talking the whole time, it's like, it's going to be highly unlikely that that person's going to sign up with you.
Yeah.
There's no relationship. You haven't gone into the problems. You haven't done the test closes or anything like that. So their ability to see the prize is not really going to be there.
Yeah. Most of what comes out of your mouth during that consultation should be questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much more questions than there is information and answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you sort of mentioned a little bit there with the close itself. Language is obviously, again, the most important thing. Again, coming back to that, like sale, the closing on the phone, it's the same idea. So do you want to do personal training? It's like, that just makes me cringe just even fucking saying it. Let alone having someone say it to me. I'd be like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So the one that I'm finding really effective at the moment is, so go through the brief overview of what you get. Sweet. Is that what you're looking for? That's what you wanted from personal training. That's why you came to the call. Yes. Am I missing anything? Do you have any questions? Everything sounds where it needs to be. Every now and then someone will say just the price. More often than not, they're like, nah, I think I'm all good. Sweet. It's X amount per week. I can have you set up. I do my onboarding on Monday. So if you're okay with that, I'll send you through the direct debit link now and we can get started.
Yeah. I'm going to paint a picture for you guys that shows how important language is. So we worked with a specific RTO delivering personal training courses at one point. And we ran these workshops that were, get to know the course. We ran them through some stuff, what was involved, did some, practical stuff, did the wow session. We followed our procedure. We were like, we'll take care of this. So they had to have a representative there for specific reasons. So they were in the room. So come the end, we had 16 or 20 people in there, basically just like locked in, engaged, saw that this was what they wanted, could see the prize, all that stuff. Literally could have signed up on the spot. So then said RTO representative stood up, talked about all this unnecessary shit. Everyone got bored. And then at the end was no pressure, only if you want to, no obligations. Everything's okay. I feel awkward selling, so I'm going to make it comfortable for you to say no kind of thing. And we went from like having probably nearly 16 people interested to signing up like 7.
Nah, we had 4 in that course.
Four. There you go. So that is how powerful language, persona, confidence, all of those things are when you go through this process. Literally, we were at the point where like all those people could have said jump, and that would have helped them with their PT careers. And they were like, fuck yeah. Like, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. It's like we painted the picture and gave them the prize. So they were in. And then someone else came in and destroyed all of that with poor language, poor process, talked about shit that wasn't necessary, and sat there up at the end with no confidence saying, you guys should get on board right now. There's no urgency at all. So people just went, cool, you just killed my buzz, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's what happens every time with coaches in the fitness industry selling their products and their services.
You can literally watch the body language shift in the entire room.
Yeah.
As soon as you start speaking.
The vibe sucked, man. Like even I was like, man, when's he going to fucking shut up? Like, you know, it just sucked. Like it was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a really good example. It just sprung to my head. I was like, we have to share this with you.
Yeah, for sure. So the language one, if you're selling face to face, or if you have even online, if you have multiple options, maybe not so much online. Face to face, obviously you've got the options of selling a certain amount of sessions. So the best way around that is like, cool. So 1 session is this much, 2 sessions is this much, which one works better for you? Again, it's like, what's the path of least resistance? I'm going to get the best results out of 2, so I want to do that one. Maybe they can't afford it, so they lean towards 1, whatever. But you're giving 2 options that are both what the client needs and what you need out of that conversation. Online is a little bit different, tends not to have like as many options, just like this is the product. And I would advise you to only have one online because it gets very confusing. It's very hard to use visuals. Face to face, you can kind of have nice diagrams and graphs and shit and be like, look, this is 2 sessions. This is 1 session. So yeah, with online, just very direct. It's this much. We can start you this time. But I would make sure what's really important is, like I was saying before, this is what you get. Is that what you wanted? Does that tick all the boxes? Is there any questions I haven't answered? Is there any other possible reason that you could say no to me asking you money in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm all good. Sounds exactly what I was looking for. Sweet. It's this much. We start Monday. So we've got objections on the list because personal trainers always ask us how to handle objections. I'm very blunt on objections, if I'm totally honest. The best way to handle those objections is to do your consult better.
Yeah. Do everything that we just said to do up until this point better, and you'll get less of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you're using that, is that everything you wanted? Are you any questions? Is there anything else you need? Blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. That creates the opportunity for them to bring up those objections. Well, I don't know if I can commit to a time. Well, I don't know if I've got to go on. People will say no to personal training because they've got 2 weeks holiday planned in 6 weeks and it's a 12-week minimum term. And they'll say no. So it's like, do you have any questions, concerns, anything that stands out at the moment? Oh, I've got to go away for 2 weeks. Will that affect anything? No, it's fine. We'll just put you on suspension, or we'll just do the sessions before and after. It's not a drama at all. Oh, okay, sweet. It's like, bang, problem solved.
Yeah.
Prior to asking for the sale where possible. If you get to the end and they object, Jace is probably better at it than me. What are your go-tos when it comes to handling those objections?
It's just get used to asking and talking back to them once they do that. Like don't kind of curl over and just go, oh, okay, and then just move on, like, because it's awkward and you want to get away. It's like, take it as extreme ownership. what did I do that didn't deliver or portray the prize? And why can't that person see that? I need to go back and go, have I missed something?
Yeah.
So I need to think about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm just curious. So being curious opens up a really level platform. And it's like, have I not been very clear on like kind of the process, what you're getting? Do you have any questions with that? Like, can I do anything to kind of make that a little bit clearer for you? Generally, like I need to think about it is just, I don't want to do it. And I just want to tell you that I want to think about it. And it's like, oh, no, I just like to think about things before I do them. And it's like, okay, so just being really honest with you, everyone that leaves this conversation, 9 out of 10 people don't come back. So if you really want to get all these outcomes that we spoke about, it's like, I strongly recommend that we kind of get on board now, and then you can have a think about it. And there's a period where you can, kind of cool off and stuff, but let's get you signed up now, just so that we kind of, mitigate the chance happening where you kind of just drop into the abyss and you never get the outcomes that you want. It's like in what part of that did I come across pushy? Like the intention was still to get the outcome. The intention was still to help the person. The intention was like ownership on me. I haven't done my part here. You don't understand what you're getting. So can I help you with that? And then like sometimes it comes down to money, and it's like, all right, look, we can move to this downsell. Like you might have some options there. We always go with like 3 and 2 sessions so that you can downsell to 1. If you've got that, do it. Sometimes it might just be like, all right, well, maybe when you're in a position to do so, like leave that chain of command open again, keep in touch with them. They might be in a position somewhere down the track, but like always ask back all the time. It's like, if you don't, then a lot of those things could be rectified just by talking about it.
Yeah.
It's like even the partner thing. It's like, well, sign up now. And if your partner's not supportive of your decisions and your goals, like, cool. Yeah. Will let us know, and we'll just cool it off. Yeah. It's like, I don't know about anybody else, but if my wife comes to me and says, I want to do something, I'm like, I don't want to say no to her. Like, I want to make sure she has everything she wants. So I'm going to do my best to make that happen. So it's like, give them the option, the freedom to go, cool, we can sign up, but you guys can talk about it. And it's like, you got the ability to cool off if you need to. If they're not supportive of it, fine.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add on top of that is like, make sure you're not using that cool off as a crutch.
Yeah.
Do that self-reflection of like, there was room to improve here because I had to mention that.
Agreed.
That's your very last, like, oh, fuck, all right, look, I can give you 7 days to cool off. I like a 7-day cooling off period. Legally, everyone has that anyway.
Yeah.
You have to kind of vocalize it all the time. But it's really important to take that ownership of, well, if I'm having to give everyone a cooling off period, I'm not getting the consult right. I'm not getting the close right. I'm not getting something right along the way.
Yeah. And most of the time, if you're like convincing people in every conversation, it's like there's somewhere in the chain that you're missing the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. The goal here for you guys is to have them pre-sold beforehand. So you're sitting down, it's an audition. It's like, it's almost like an interview for you to go, all right, well, I can work with this person because their goals kind of tick my skill set. And this person kind of seems like we would get on really well together. Yeah. So I'm going to take this person on board. That's the prize. You want to get to that point. And it's like, we get to that point by the hour and 10 minutes before we've had this conversation.
Yeah, 100%. So I think on that, when you do the niche document, it'll be the same. So we talk about horizontal and vertical niches for different people based on whether you've got a full book or not. If you've got a full book, you're starting to want to create people coming to you, the ability to say, I have a coaching intake open, click my fingers, and I've filled it. That's our goal now. We don't want to have to pick up the phone every time someone leaves.
Yeah.
If you're new, just get busy. Pick up the phone, do all those like things that you need to do, get yourself off your feet, then worry about fucking Instagram, your website, and all of that, because it's not going to sell for you straight away.
Nah.
Those things are a long game. They takes time to build that authority. It takes time even just to create the assets that you need to present as an authority.
Make that work, yeah.
So don't rush that stuff. Get yourself a full book because you can do it. Just in the gym, like I said, we've had well over 6 trainers go from 0 to 40 in 12 weeks. And another dozen or so go to 30. Like, it's just following this system. 100% you can do that and be well and truly in profit once that full rent period ticks over. The ones that don't, you can guarantee you look at their data, it's like they just didn't make the calls.
Yeah, they just didn't put the work in the right spots.
Yeah.
Or at all.
Yep. Awesome. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. So our next episode will be on the Be Great pillar. I'm just going to talk about the specifics that you'll need as a personal trainer to be successful from a skill set standpoint. So what do you need to know? What do you actually need to know in terms of like, do you need to go study fucking strength conditioning, all of that sort of stuff to train Susie Muffin Top? Like, what do you actually need to know to get your clients results? After that, we're going to start spinning off from these pillars a little bit more. So I'd like some feedback from you guys now that obviously we've taken this little bit of a shift. There'll be an announcement probably between this podcast and the next one with some cool things happening with the podcast itself. Obviously taking a very direct road now where we're speaking directly to personal trainers. So we want to hear from you guys as PTs of what you're struggling with, what you'd like us to talk about. We can nerd out on shit too. Like we don't have to just talk about business all the time. Jason and I are still very excited to talk about training principles and nutrition principles. Maybe less nutrition, but
yeah, sometimes nutrition, more training.
Yeah. So yeah, hit us up. Let us know what you want to know about. Go and do that niche before you apply any of this stuff from today. And I hope this is one that you go back through with a pen and paper and actually take notes. Do the niche module or the niche report first.
Yeah.
So it's stcfitlearning.com/niche. I guarantee you just completing that will change the way you run your business, change the way you do things very positively. If you want to follow us, it's at Ben Scott STC Fit, I think, or at STC. Jason Galea _STC, obviously for the learning pages at STCfit _learning. If you're interested in online coaching of any sort, hit at STCfit. I believe the girls are on next week, which will be announcement time as well. So keep an eye out on that. There's some news coming out on just how the podcast will be delivered, with obviously the girls being on quite frequently now as well. Anything else, Jace? Did I miss anything?
No, it's it will be our last episode. It'll come out for the year.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's just crazy. Anyway, so last one for the year, closing off the 5 pillars.
Just before, we do take off, obviously, the 5 pillars as part of our Standout PT program. We're launching that on February 1st of 2021. Applications are open now, so if you're interested, shoot us a DM on InstaWebs or via the website. If you go onto the website, stcfitlearning.com, there's a whole page that gives you all the information, everything you need to know about it, and you can submit an inquiry in there as well. This will be capped. Obviously, the first time we're running it, we've only got a certain amount of space that we can fit people in. We want to make sure that we deliver a high quality service. So it will be capped probably to 20 people. So I recommend getting in the way that the academy's taken off in the last few weeks before we closed it. I recommend getting in soon and making sure you've got your spot.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right, guys.
All right.
We will see you next
Enjoy
week.
that one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.